Okay, welcome back to the 433rd Knowledge Seekers Workshop here on Thursday, May 19th, 2022. Hello, Mr. Kesh. Are you ready to begin the second half of our program here today?
Yes, with pleasure. Before we start this part of the teaching, as I said to you before, Keshe Foundation is involved in research and development in different universities in different part of the world. One of the researchers which we started with Corona, two with the leading scientists in the world to do the research, was that as coronavirus was not available, more or less to no one, we had to test and ask the universities and scientists to test different viruses in a full research development university structure with a permission and license from the university to do the research using the Keshe Foundation technology and materials. Number of these researchers, following expansion of the science of the Keshe Foundation with viruses, has come to conclusion. And after a year, scientific papers for them are ready to be published in international journals. One of the things which we looked and was founded and financed to test that it was parallel and very similar to what we call corona was the research and development in herpes. As you remember, some 3-4 years ago, in one of the journals of the Keshe Foundation, Plasma Time, I released papers about the work of the herpes in the body of the man. The scientific data, the research paper is 100% convincing and completed and confirms that a specific new mixtures of gases has reduced the strength of the virus by 1,000 times. If you had 10,000 viruses, now it drops by 3 zeros to 10. The scientific paper will be published in one of the leading journals around the world in the coming weeks, as the final part of it is ready for submission. We have already seen this work in other dimensions, and for this reason, Keshe Foundation has launched and will launch a new work in this dimension. And what we call the Keshe Foundation on the commercial side will provide systems that most and all of you can purchase through the Keshe Foundation as part of the international test trial. And we collect the data for scientific confirmation of the paper. In a coming short time, Keshe Foundation will launch on the same basis of same technology, confirming the safety of the gases we produce, which has already been done for the skin and digestion in China and Iran. We launch this new product for what we call the tip, the lip, and the hip. We try to see the influences of the plasma on tip, which we call migraine, hay fever. The lip, as we see herpes usually on the lips. And the hip is for the cycle of the pain most of the women go through menstruation. These are not digesting system. These are to be used on the skin only and nothing else. And is by agreement, is by donation, and is for you to accept to be part of this, what we call trials or testing, that we can gather in what we call at your own time, your own free time, with your own responsibility to test and report back. We have brought in people in the Keshe Foundation which will immediately collect and respond to these what we call trials. We do not enter in any shape or form in any other direction. And this is literally for you to donate for the research to be further evaluated. And it's not for you to drink it. It's non-drinkable product. It has to be used only on the skin. And then you send your report back. What do you see? How fast was effective? If especially you've seen the herpes pack after 2-3 times of use. And you have to understand the herpes is a virus, goes, as we explained, on the middle of the skin. And as the skin is part of the brain, we've seen scientific research in the past, a large number of people with herpes around the lips end up with Alzheimer's because then it affects the layer of the skin, it connects to that. So in the coming time, when you go to the Keshe Foundation, what we call website, fill in the form, and then you make the donation, and the foundation apparatus which is set up will send you as a free gift for you to test what we call new trials, but you have to fill in the form and you have to keep to it because this data is important. There's a limited number of these are available, and then we expand it if the research data comes as it's expected, and we publish it. Do not forget that the Keshe Foundation as an institute and Keshe Foundation as a journal or scientific journal, we publish our own work and we do our own structural work. As an international organization, there is no boundaries for our work, and there is no limitation for you to test the new dimensions in the gain of the knowledge. The scientific report comes from one of the leading universities, and one of the leading scientists in that university has done the research with a collective number of other scientists in this university. And the papers for it as it's published will be published collaterally with the Keshe Foundation Plasma-Tech. This is another small step towards the handling of the next tests of officially done by universities and international institutes for handling the viruses in space. You got to understand, we cannot take waters to the space to overcome viruses. We do these tests to understand the fields created, to be able to make systems that the interaction of the fields in the universe we can overcome, and build this in our systems to overcome viruses. In a future space unit, viruses will be introduced as part of the structure. Viruses as fields, not as a virus, which means that in the future space technology, any viruses in space will be absorbed by the system that never reaches the man. Or if the man absorbs it outside the flight system, can pass it on to the system to absorb it. This is part of the further development and research of the Keshe Foundation in deep space travel. You decide to travel with the spaceship, you try to travel with the soul. Either way, even the souls can be interacted, and they will come in interaction as they are themselves made of plasma fields with what we call loose fields, packages of the universe. We call them the viruses in the universal language. So we enter this new era with the scientific papers which are done, the research is completed, that with your help and your cooperation, if you suffer from especially herpes, and you know other people with all these things on their lips, and you see very often with any, and then when they just need to kiss a child and it passed on and damages a child for the rest of life, these now can be tested and then will come as a product in the next few months and years out of the Keshe Foundation for this purpose. But now we're going through the what we call testing and trials. You volunteer yourself and you test it yourself. And with Keshe Foundation, let us know, as is done now by the universities. The same is with TIP, LIP, and HIP package. And let's see how much knowledge, how fast you can respond back to us. We need to collect this data. With a limited number of items will be available to see what will be, what is the indication. We'll keep you posted. More, as we say, this test now directly will be monitored on hourly basis by the Keshe Foundation, which we have put a person in charge to see how the volunteers will react and what they report back to us. And this will bring 3 of the more what I call menaces in this planet. We see many people suffering with, hopefully, to some sort of understanding. And then we pass this into the world of pharmaceutical, let them to come out with the international distribution and commercialization. Rick, if you are ready to go for, if you have any questions that we can answer.
Okay, sure. I was just showing briefly the website from the KF Wikipedia. It's actually an article from the KF Plasma Times of January 2019 with your article about the viruses, the energy packages of the universe. And it's quite involved there. We posted the link, people can check that out as a prelude to your current research that's ongoing in this topic. Thank you, Mr. Kesh. Okay, let's get back to the workshop here. So we'll open it up to questions. And once again, I remind the attendees here in the Zoom workshop that you can raise your virtual hands and then we can allow you to open your microphone. And in the other chats in live stream and YouTube, you can post a question if you have a question. Okay, we do have a question in the Q&A. Perhaps, we have a hand up. Maybe we should begin with that. It's Salamia. Go ahead, Salamia.
Hello. Hello, everybody. Hello, Mr. Kesh. Thank you, Rick. I have a question regarding the cup of life and about the influence of this magnetico-gravitational field on our electric installation, or if is there an interference, something. What is the impact on this, if there is one or if it is not? Thank you very much.
All the cups create magnetic fields of different strength. And if the strength step up or a step down matches the electric currents or plasmatic currents of the system with it, then interact. because electric current itself is a magnetic field. So if they find matching point, yes, they do. If they don't find a matching point and a strength, they don't. So it is expected. This is one of the reasons we always put the systems in the middle of them. I've seen many knowledge seekers put their stacker unit against the wall and near a light or plug or whatever. You create still everything, but you have interaction and limitation and what I call common denominator with what is passing you.
I was asking about the impact, if it is positive or could be negative. This is
The impact is what according to what you need or what you have done. Nothing is negative.
yes.
Nothing in the structure of the plasma negative. Always there's a balance.
Okay.
I was talking to one of the leading knowledge seekers about the situation we have risen with the American ambassador yesterday in Vienna, and the situation that we see even in scientists are heading for using the new plasma technology. And the question raised was, they are using plasma. They're creating a technology out of plasma. So the soul of this new system should know what is correct and protect. Now, the use of the technology as you create a plasma which has a central control and in a way has emotional interaction, would it lead to destruction and annihilation, or would it bring a new cycle? Would the Iranian soldiers and Russians, when they use it for the first time in the zones in Ukraine, can you shut that channel, please? There's noise coming up. Would we see a new dimension where the system used to annihilate creates new life, changes things, a new dimension? The wish of the technology is technology in exchange for peace. We have set our course. And would the interaction of the fields of the environment will bring that change? The understanding of the technology in totality is paramount than just picking up the part which suits and fits you. Because when the reality hits, it might not suit what you thought you might gain out. And we see this collaboration between Iran and Russia. When a drone was captured, technology was shared with Russia, and Russians captured what we call the most advanced ship. And I openly came with this because of the American ambassador's office and the American government is listening onto the line. Do not make the mistake to overlook and oversight the situation. The same goes with the state of Israel. The same goes with Iran. New weapon technologies using the plasma the way we have introduced on this will not create damages. Because it works different way. It's set up different way. The Iranian scientists will be shocked in what they have or what they might achieve by application of it. I want the American administration collaborate as fast as possible with the Keshe Foundation to bring this to an end in a very fast way. And I want the same Iranians, do not take this path because you open something which is to the benefit of the foundation, the work of humanity, but you do not know how to control it. The interaction of the fields, as just been said, with the what we call high transmission systems across the countries, can bring a shocking news to many nations at the same time. This is what Prime Minister Netanyahu did not understand when it explained that using the technology used showing the Keshe Foundation apparatus as a Iran weapon technology, this is a massive energy source. My biggest fear is if it's used, then would there be any transformers? Would there be any power stations operating after that? Because we've seen the effect of it in Sanya in South China Sea some years ago.
If we offer this cup to somebody, I mean, not the content, but these instruments which made the Magrav, we'll still have in the house this field, magnetic field. It will remain there forever, or we will...
It's connected. It's connected. You can, once you establish a magnetic field, it's connected. It cannot be broken. When you make a cup for someone and give it to them, that cup is connected to them and to you at the same time. Even if somebody gives you one of the cups of lives and then you have it at home, use it a few times or whatever, and then you give it to somebody else, now it's connected with both places. It's a field connection. This is how in electrical circuits we see the lines to be nano-coated. We don't nano-coat the wires. Plasmatically, fields move, and in that process, move atomic structure to separation and what we call nanolayers. And then the outer boundary of these nanolayers, in conjunction with interaction, let's say, with a salt in a plaster or a mixture with a salt with somewhere else, or the salt within the plastics which is produced, will lead to the generation of gases, and you create a local energy system. We've seen this in many, many systems. And the more, if you put, for example, a Magrav unit or an enhancement unit or a couple of live unit in the house, cut a piece of wire before you started and hold it outside the house. And then when you put the Magrav in, and then cut the same piece of wire, which is part of the house, 6 months later, the color is not the same. It looks copper, but it's not. The shine is different because the first layers of the nanomaterial through plasmatic conditions already been created. Any other question?
Thank you, Mr. Kirsch.
Okay, in the Q&A, we have a question from Liznio. There's a lot of hypnosis investigations recorded and shared by way of the internet regarding different creatures from the universe. I would like to know from your knowledge about the Elohim, or maybe those who pretend to be Elohim. And what is Elohim?
What is Elohim? I've never heard of it.
Well, I had to kind of look. Yes, I've heard of it before, but I had to look it up. It's basically gods, or it's related to the Hebrew word, meaning gods or entities. Maybe it's pronounced differently than I say it. Elohim? Elohim? I'm not sure. Elohim.
In Farsi, we have a word very near to it. It comes from connected to God, Elahi, which means from the Creator. But I do not know what he's talking about, so I cannot answer you.
Well, it is a Hebrew word meaning gods, and but it usually in the Hebrew Bible refers to a single deity, not gods in plural. So it's like you say, coming from God. In any case, these apparently like.
It's the same word in Arabic, I think, becomes Allah, which means God. It's the same derivation as it sounds. We have it in Farsi, the same thing, but again, it means the Creator. But put it this way, whatever you dream, even in the dimension of the soul, created from the interaction of magnetic field, that magnetic field has come from the source of Creator in some different strength and dimension. So you can always claim it. We don't have out of nowhere magnetic field created. We don't have different races of God, if you put it that way. And say which God has it come from. All comes from one source by interaction or by whatever. In the electronics, we create coils and we wind them over each other and we transfer energies. It's the same process in the world of creation. Different field strengths in interaction create new dimensions and sometimes current. So we are always connected to something somewhere. And as we all come from one field source, so yes, we can claim, yes.
Some of the definitions are for powerful angelic beings who have been contributing to the process of creation ever since the beginning, or created spiritual beings with moral judgment and high intelligence, but without physical manifestation.
I think many of you will get to that point when you go to non-tangible enhancement system. You all become angelic. It'll be very interesting to see. Any other question?
Okay, we have a question from Steph in the Q&A. You talked about the bonbon that you put in the mouth to change the emotion. Is it available sometime or not? Thank you for being our teacher.
It will be in that process in the coming times. That is an intermediary step. Any other question?
From let's just say from A in the Q&A. Thank you, Mr. Keshe, for your teachings today. Just on the trials for people with herpes, is this program ready to go? My partner has this problem and would like to be part of this research.
Go to the Keshe Foundation website and declare it in, and it should be launched in the next few hours or days. We are waiting for some clarification from the authorities. And then, yes, anybody can. Do not drink these waters. These are just to touch and research scientifically has proven, and we have certification from our Chinese research centers. We paid for it that our materials are safe for the skin. So please do not accept anything anybody else gives you, whatever, because we don't know what is involved. We know our products, we know what we do, and we know the mixture of the things we produce. Many of our what we call gases are not in public domain. So you will not see what was expected, and it's not just somebody heard, I did, tried, whatever. Try them, but you have to go through the what you call the process of we are not selling products. It's for you to donate to and test it yourself and report back in what you see, if it's effective, how effective, and how it does. But this is a collecting data to go back into the what we call the next stage for what we call commercialization. Any other question?
Jan is asking in the YouTube, when is Mr. Kesh going back to Iran? He mentioned a year ago he would go back after the Iranian election in 2021, and even the resident was allocated to him, residency or something.
I'm an Iranian citizen. I do not need residency. We are in talk with the Iranian government for my return to Iraq. Our office in Tehran until last week, when they went through a process, the Iranian authorities, the way it is, the Office of Ayatollah Khamenei of Iran and the Office of the President and Sepah have to guarantee my freedom to return from Iraq. We do not have this in writing as of today. I met with the Iranian officials in the past 7 days, the Iranian embassy, for clarification on this point. And my return out of Iran has to be guaranteed by Office of Ayatollah Khamenei of Iran. And we need that clearance from the government and the structure put in. We've been verbally told there is no problem, but we need it in writing, because in 2008, when I went to Iran, the Office of Ayatollah Khamenei objected for my departure from Tehran at the airport. We don't want to get to that position. At that time, Ahmadinejad negotiated with the office to allow me to leave after 3 days, 4 days. And we need that clarification today. We are ready to go. Our office in Tehran just moved to a beautiful new offices in the past few days. And till we don't have that assurances from the Iranian government for my safe departure, we still on hold. There are things which needs to be done, assurances to be given that when you go in, suddenly new things don't come up. Any other question? You got to realize Iranian government has a problem in many ways with my presence in Iraq. As we know, the Belgians, since we kicked them out of the Keshe Foundation, and there were 2 terabytes of files in sheets to the Iranian government saying I'm the agent of Israel. And the beauty of it is they put their fingerprint on it. We see it, and it's been delivered. And then there is a situation with what the Iranian officials have to deal with, what we call the proclamation of being Mehdi as a soul. And this is a very hard thing to swallow. And the dimension of the acceptance of the changes goes right to fundamental changing in the whole of the Iranian structure in the new science and technology delivery. You got to understand, Iran has always had a problem with Keshe Foundation. And personally me, because I come from two sides, half Jewish, half Muslim. My mother's side goes to Kohen and my father's side goes to Sayyid. And they cannot tell the Iranian nation that somebody with half Jewish blood is so loyal to his nation. Doesn't fit if you're trying to demolish the state of Israel. And this doesn't fit into the structure of the school of thought they've developed. And this is something which they use my technology, Keshe Foundation supporting everywhere, other call my the Islamic side. But personally, to be there and being of Jewish blood is hard to swallow when you're promoting a state of Israel as whatever else to be demolished. I've never been disrespected by the officials in any level in any of the embassies or during my time in Iran, but bringing that to a nation which have created so much animosity about another nation is very hard to become objective about it and change. They enjoy the pleasures of the knowledge and technology, but how can you tell your nation? There is such I want the same position on the attack by the those who are against and those are with either side. And this cannot be sorted. Now it's so public without clarification from the Office of Ayatollah of Iran and the government. We stay loyal to the nation of Iran, as we stay loyal to the rest of the nations. But place of birth does not bring privilege of rights. Not nowadays. Any other question?
Yes, we have our Thomas ready to ask a question, I believe. Go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Keshe. How are you?
Thank you very much.
Mr. Keshe, I just would like to go back to this question about the Elohim. There is a very interesting man in Italy who is the official translator for old scripture in the Vatican. And he, of course, or not of course, he has a very other view on the translations which were made since old times, because he goes back to the Hebrew and Aramaic texts. And I think he is sort of very on another way than, for instance, the translations in English or in German by Luther. So the word Elohim as such is a plural, and he is very firm that when he looks at the whole texts of the Old Testament, that there were in the beginning not just one God which is referred to by the Old Testament, but different gods. Of course, he is also of the opinion, like all of us, that there is a source, but this source is very difficult to be named, because we have in the Old Testament actually 3 times sort of names of God, which in the translation were differentiated. So there was the Elohims as a plural. Then comes the unspeakable God of name of God, which the German text and the English text translated into Jehovah. which is a word which in Hebrew cannot be expressed. But then there is a very important third name which God calls himself, or the source, as a matter of fact, when Abraham sees the burning bush which doesn't consume itself. He says, "Who are you?" And the translation in German and English was, "I am who I am." I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous, because if you look at the Hebrew letters, it is Eheye, then Asher, and then Eheye. So this is a word, Eheye, I am, but Asher, one ghost, this is the word for happiness. So actually, this word should be much more understood as I am happiness. But of course, from the church's point of view, this is absolutely unsupportable, because if people think they are sort of like together with the source, that's why they are happy, then you have no command over all these souls. So actually, that's the only thing I wanted to comment is, yes, we are all, when we are happy, we are in contact with our soul, our love for the source, but that makes us as man independent. And that's what was refused by all the churches or all the religions in the past, except maybe the Buddhists, which accepted that some people could reach enlightenment and therefore would be at the same level as Buddha. But that is
I was sorry about that. Let me explain something to what we call line of religions in Middle East, which most of us European-speaking languages believe in, be it Judaism, be it Christianity, being Muslim. These are all interconnected religions. And one has taken something from the other one and extended it to suit. We see this in Islam clearly, where in Christianity we don't see, for example, because Christ never went into this. In Judaism we have kosher meat, we have to be slaughtered in a specific way. And then we see the same thing carried out by Muhammad, bless his name, because he traveled to Palestine, he saw the Jews, he saw how slaughtering the animal the way they do to let all the blood go, allows the meat to last longer without getting infected. So he changed it into halal, but in fact it's the same. Many, many things in this line of religion in the Middle East is one extension of the other. If how Moses received the message or how Muhammad received the message, you look at the similarity. All was done for the betterment of man. The abuse came after the prophet. With Moses came with the prophet. So how we interpret the language, and if you call it the Silk Road, but this Silk Road existed in the south of Persian Gulf with Iran too. The Arabs, the Iranians, all the Chinese, the Palestinians, the Europeans, all took that line to go to Palestine and trade because it was the center of everything, and then they added religion to it. So we have the same common language, words, use of words. because the religion so interacted, or the people interacted so much. If the simple example of it is, if China was invented in China, through the Silk Road and the trading through what now President Xi calls it the Silk Road routes, if we manage to change plates and glaze it and call it a pottery China, we all call it China, you can imagine how the words and the theology when a China man exchanged plate with another man to get paid and they had dinner at the same time. This use of word and then changing it to part of different beliefs, to Tibet or to God knows wherever, is part of the exchange of the culture. And somebody who has taken somebody's idea or understanding for the betterment of his race has come up with different names for it. Call it a Buddha, call it Muhammad, call it Christ, whatever. The latest version of it is the Baha'is. But its demise has come to an end of its progress. Nothing is added into to the knowledge of the soul of the man. There is no extension. There is no scientific way to be able to explain what the soul is. For the first time, you know what it is. You've been taught, you understand it. Now, there is nobody to come between you and your soul and wherever that knowledge comes from it. Now you have access to, if you know how to do it, to universal knowledge. Do you need to have a knowledge about electricity? If you still live in a physical dimension, yes. But are there any generators in the universe? What a dimensional field of the universe? Yes, they are, but in a different shape or form. Places where the fields of the universe, which are loose and don't go anywhere, they come into and then regurgitated as energy across the universe. Some of them are very similar to neutron stars. But mankind has used the same story from the same Silk Road talks, from the pottery to religion, and change of name in different directions. Jews had the same plates, and many of them died because of the plates, because they had no glazing. Chinese came with the glazing, they brought it, and the Jews changed. But if you look 5,000, 6,000 years down the line, when you go to a Jewish home, there are two sets of plates, as all of us know. One plate for milk and one plate for meat. And it hasn't changed, because they don't want to see the change. That gives them separation. We are different. But a knowledgeable Jew eats out of one plate, doesn't have to sit at home, because now he knows glazed, the fat of the meat cannot go into the plate and destroy it. But the other bits stayed. If you look at what we call all the religions, path of belief, they all come around about the space gap, and it's come by a man who's seen the other side, now brought it here. It's just like, you know, you go to America, you see a new device, you take the agency and you go to your country and you become agent. Now a new device has come because it was in America. There was a new device called Judaism, this kind of beliefs, which itself came out of Mithraism. And then Christ, just why you have an Old Testament and New Testament? What's the difference between the two if you look at it? Cut the Jewish parts off, you make a new shape one, they call it the New Testament. And Muhammad did the same, because it brings a better condition for its people. But the words are the same. They cannot use it. They diversified or what it meant in that language, you put it there. But now, for the first time, you understand it yourself that nobody to be the prophet, nobody to be somebody that you have to go. When you understand yourself, then you teach yourself, you expand the knowledge yourself. So you try to explain in this, the Old Testament, somebody translates, somebody is highly blah blah in it. It doesn't make any difference. It's all the same. It's the same China pot. And if you learn to make it in Switzerland, so now you have a Chinese Swiss made. But it's the knowledge comes from China. Any other question?
Okay, we have a question in the Q&A from Antonio. Thank you, Mr. Kesh. I have a photo of a spacecraft which is in transition from etheric to a physical vehicle. So the photo shows a craft which is not quite solid. My question is the non-physical flight system, can this alternate between invisible and visible, or are these two separate systems? My thoughts are that our space brothers are not physical, but are able to perhaps lower their vibration when they wish to be visible to us.
First of all, we don't see this picture because he just sent me one on the internet. I can see what he's talking about. First of all, this goes back to what I just said a few minutes ago in the teaching regarding the uranium developing and trying to develop what they call plasma nuclear magnetic field generators. When you create a system with what you call like UFOs, which you go to the phase of understanding and developing the way can be done with a soul, then it has the same properties as you. It decides where and how it wants to manifest itself. These pictures we cannot confirm yes or no because it's now this photography is very much about superimposing one on the other. But the knowledge is the same. Many of you will be shocked when you see the new flight systems without what they call physical structure. When you go into a space, you don't go in a system blocked with walls. It's understanding the knowledge, the science, in its totality. And when you're seeing something new, being able to explain it why and how. Sometime in 2010, if I'm correct, in around about 22nd of June, BBC has shown a movie taken in Brighton, on the beaches of Brighton, where the actor walks down the steps to come to the beach. And the cameraman is taking a picture with the scenery in the background, everything else, the cloud, the sky, and everything else. And it's a clear indication, a clear visual. You cannot do anything in it. You see like 3 or 4 clouds in the sky, in the background. And then you see UFOs going from one cloud to another. It's not a production, it's actually happening. You see it, and they never realized it in production because they were focusing on the actor. But in the background of the sky, you see UFOs jumping from one cloud to another, back to a cloud and going forward. I recorded this, and I don't know where I left it. If you go into the archives of the Keshan, what they call it, BBC, you should be able to find it. And so UFOs exist. What you call it is not a what do you call it, exclusivity of one race or the other, but each one have created their own what you call versions. Not all the UFOs are the same. What the flying objects in the universe are the same. It's like you have a Rolls-Royce, you have a truck, you have a Mercedes, you have a Mini. And the Chinese created their own version of the cars, and the South American their own version of cars. It's the same in the universal community. It doesn't come from one race. All the races who reach certain level of knowledge achieve flights, achieve motion. And certain which they don't want to do it in a matter state, understand the structure of the soul, they travel with the soul. Man has the advantage and the privilege of being able to do both in a physical dimension. You eat and sit with your father. In the soul dimension, father is in New York, you speak to him and you know what he is. Now one has to understand, he can live in both dimensions. That's all. No exclusivity, and each one has its own flavor. You know, you buy a car and you customize it. Citizens of the universe have customized their flight systems they do physically. Not all of them have reached the maturity that now we put the man through to understand the work of the soul. Not like you started with digging in the ground and built something. You got to realize something very, very strange. And I explained this some time ago to some scientists. If you look at the size of some of these UFOs, which we've seen or claim to be seen or whatever, it's the size of a city. Can you imagine if it was built, wherever it's built, and must be in a very small part of the position, and the size of these ships is the size of a city, how big that planet is. And then how did they achieve to get resources of whatever they have, titanium, special metals, to build it? It needs 10 Earth-sized planet to mine it, to not even mine, to change the material into the door of the craft, the lights and everything else. How big a Shanghai city is on this planet that it can bring from the Chinese nation all the resources to build one UFO that big? And I'm sure this is not the only one they built. Just put the scale and the order of knowledge, and then you will understand what we're talking about. Each man has made according to his availability and extent of knowledge, of materials and knowledge. When you look at these things, and you look at the 10, 20 spaceships together, they must have come somewhere. It's not a camel ride going from Jeddah or Medina to Tel Aviv. These size of ships you see, they have to fit into something if they're traveling across the universe. And these are like a aircraft carrier with the little ones inside, helicopters or whatever else you call it. Our knowledge now has reached aircraft carriers. Their knowledge has reached the spaceship carriers. They carry more bits in it. Then you can understand what the knowledge has been, how much it took them to gain this knowledge. The human race is on the same track, but with the new knowledge we brought, the way what we brought, mankind has jumped the scale of ladders. And not just mankind, it's for everyone. As I said before, we respect and honor those who came to this planet and they didn't bring the mayhem with them with the knowledge that the man couldn't handle. Even the amount of knowledge which was brought in, that nowadays you can see the mobile phones and the television and everything else which has changed the order of the man, is nothing compared to what to come. We just cracked open the door. We haven't opened the door to get into the realm of the knowledge of the universe. Any other question?
We had a question from Paula in the chat here. Good morning, Mr. Kesh. Could you talk about the phenomenon that happens with the aurora borealis?
It's a natural phenomenon. It's a natural field interaction. It's the nature of the fields from the northern hemisphere, or whatever we see it everywhere. It's not exclusive. We see there much more clearly. Or we see this due to field interaction and the charge of the materials which are in that space. Any other question?
From Ed in the Q&A. So these triangle UFOs, they utilize the star formation system. And if you travel through the soul, do you travel on the rays of light? Because you stated that some ships house beings' bodies while they detach and float around as their soul.
Once you learn how to walk, you can jump, dance, and do whatever you like. So once the race learns something, then they try to extend and see the extension of it, how they can, what they can achieve. It's not that it's like us, all of us, the same. We learn something and then we add to it. You go and buy a wallpaper and we'll see how you change it. You paint it blue, the other piece of the paper you paint it yellow, and so on. Or you cut it in different shapes and make patterns out of it. It's the same with the knowledge. It's what is gained by the changes and what we manage to get from these changes the way it suits us. Any other question?
Okay, Jan in YouTube is asking, what happened to the return of the U.S. to the JCPOA that was supposed to be announced in March before the Iranian New Year? And the Rial would appreciate more than 50%. They are moving apart, it seems.
Pardon?
He's asking about the return of the United States to the joint agreement with the I think he calls it the JCPOA.
Yeah, yeah.
It was supposed to be
We,
happen,
Iran,
but
Iran
go
moved the
ahead.
goalposts, and the Americans moved with the goalposts. And the situation at the moment, the negotiations are still going on. It hasn't stopped. But you have to realize now, the negotiations got much tougher. Everything should have gone very straightforward the way it was. Combination of the situations and Ukrainian war has brought polarity. And what we see now, Iran sees, especially what we see from them, they are hoping or they are wishing to get a benefit out of this or advantage points from it, the same as the Russians are doing with the Americans. And it's a very, very interesting thing that's in this, the way in past 60 days things have changed. The Iranian government has more or less lost control in Iran in the past few weeks. Coming out of the Ukrainian situation with Ukraine being a major exporter of food into Middle East, and has unexpectedly in the past few days has created a massive mayhem across Iran with the rise of the bread and oil and other things by tenfold released by the government to go that way. So there's partially a lot of things has changed because of this situation, and Iran is not, or what is looked at from the outside, like Americans and others. Instability in Iran is taking shape in a very rapid way, and they're looking into, and would they be able, that's what I said when I explained why Iran rapidly is going through this change with the technology, with the nuclear plasma magnetic field, is to be able to gain a position that they can stabilize part of their instability. If you were paying $1 for a loaf of bread 2 weeks ago in Tehran, now you pay 10. Because they cannot, there's a huge shortage. India stopped the export of wheat. Ukraine has become unstable. Russians have taken over the ports of export of grain into Middle East and what they call it, an oil. Ukraine is a very influential breadbasket for majority part of the world, especially Middle East, and fertilizers. If you're American, I've been told a dozen egg was $1.99. Now it's $4.99 the same. This Ukrainian situation is both stability, and Iran is not separated from it. And if it goes any worse, we might see compromises very rapidly to be able to get grains and food from America. Gas in exchange for food, and Europe is suffering with the gas and fuel problems. It's become a very big mesh-up mess. Everything which was planned to go, everything which was negotiated to go, it just with one move and then a couple of months later with another move has changed the situation drastically, not just for Iran. There's a shortage of oil and wheat and other commodities right across Iraq, Iran, most of Middle East where Ukraine was supplying. And the Russians have taken all the southern ports, which means there is no export on their side. The political map has changed drastically in the past 60 days. And it's to the benefit of the American farmers who have a stockpile of wheat and the rest. We might see the same problem now in China. China imports 40% of grain. And part of this, what you call corona control, is food shortages. nowhere except in China, we see such a heavy control on corn. In Europe, it's finished. We are free. All the restrictions have been taken up right across. And China now struggling huge. We've seen increase in fuel prices and gas prices sevenfold in past year in Europe. And nations like Iran, who are gas exporters, are seeing massive income increase. And the West is paying it. They are bypassing the boycotts. Sanctions don't mean anything at the moment with Iran, because they have found a loophole through negotiation to get their things out that they don't run into problem with it. The peace negotiation with Iran is very, very one-sided at the moment towards the Americans. Nobody understood the strength of what we call bank control system through SWIFT. And this has brought a lot of pressure on many nations which they don't want them, or they want to bring them, what do you call it, financially to their knees, or bring them into problem. And Iran now has taken the side with China and Russia, and they see that they might win it. But this, nobody protects if there's not something in it. And as I said to the American ambassadors yesterday, Iran technological advancement, plasma technology can become exchange for actions in Ukraine. Everything was set up at the last minute, everything perfect, till suddenly certain things changed deliberately to create more mayhem, but now mayhem has returned back to themselves. The prime minister don't have food to eat anymore, they can't afford it. Wages hasn't gone up, but the bread has gone on the table 10 times more, 7 times more from last week. We will see some new incomes, if what they call it, conditions, if these things last another few weeks. Any other question?
From Nicola and Lucia in the chat, Mr. Kesh, will there be a enhancement unit that will teach us to teleport, to teach or balance us to not eat food? Love from Serbia.
This system already exists, is in the Keshe Foundation Exhibition Center. We just need to make it twin system and put it across the bridge. But now we are pushing through with the, what do you call it, the flight inhaler system. And that will be included as part of the same system.
And further question from the same person. Mr. Kesh, will you be at the workshop in Linz on 11th of June?
No. I never attend any workshops.
Okay. Miss May in the YouTube asks, will the virus herpes rub help with shingles? It is a herpes, very painful also.
Test it and tell us. Shingles can be remedied through this process. Yes. 100%. And I developed it myself because I faced with this till 2 years ago after a stroke. If you've been in conferences, my right side cheek was bruised red most of the time for years. I had a stroke on the board of a plane. And I developed this technique. That's what you get the benefit of it. I've been the guinea pig of it. If you test it for anything, let us know. You have to fill in the form, and it's what we call talking about the workshop in Linz, if I attend or whatever. If you let Casimir, the head of Keshe Foundation Sales and Promotion, to come online, he will tell you about the workshops. And Rick, you see him. Hello, Rick.
Yes, just a minute. Oops, he put his hand up and jumped up to the top of the line. There we are. Go ahead, Krasmir.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Hello to everyone. Hello, Mr. Keshe. Hello from the FM sales team. Today I want to present to you to bring your attention towards the workshops that are going to happen in the exhibition center in Linz. Rick, if you can please help me to show it on the store website. So, as you know, there are three basically workshops that are going to happen in the future in the Linz Exhibition Center. The first one happening on the 11th of June. It is 3 weeks from now. Okay, I can post the link to that in the chat. Overall, this is the basic GANs workshop. Like, we understand that a lot of people are currently into thinking about spaceships, thinking about deep space travel, thinking about the soul, and understanding the technology from this perspective, from this point of view. But we always have to go back to the basics. We always have to go back to the fundamental level of understanding of things in order for us to have a gradual and to have better development in our understanding of the technology. That is why, amongst old knowledge seekers, we are welcoming all new knowledge seekers, like a new wave of knowledge seekers, to come to Linz on the 11th of June and understand the basics, the foundation of this technology, namely the GANs workshop. How to create GANSes. We are going to give a basic understanding about the technology, not only from a theoretical point of view, but also from a very practical point of view, as we're going to show the production of nano-coated plates. You know that this is a very important process, and you need to be able to do it right. Because if you don't do it right, you will have a difference in the results, and it is not very much advisable. That is why we want all of the knowledge seekers to have a really good foundation of how to properly make the nano-coated plates, how to properly create the different types of GANSes. And that is why the overall program is focused towards those tasks. We are going to go through the theoretical understanding of plasma, so that we have the theory behind it, and then we move towards the practical applications. It is a preparation of materials, like the box for the guns making, hanging of the plates, cutting of the plates, nano coating the plates, the copper and zinc plates in particular, going through the process of the production of the 4 basic ganses, which we know are the CO2, CH3, copper oxide, and zinc oxide, with the various specific applications. Also, we are going to learn how to wash the salt away from the ganses. We still see people that are not washing their ganses and trying to use it there where they should be using the clean ganses. So we need to clear that. Also, we are going to learn how to transfer the ganses out from the container and the different ways of storing guns and guns water. In theory, everything sounds really simple, very easy to understand, which it is. But in practice, there are really small steps that we need to make sure are done correctly and precisely in order for us to get the good results. Because in the process of guns creation, the interactions that we create, the conditions that we create are very much going to define what kind of guns we're going to have, what kind of strength we're going to have, and how we can apply it later. So in this, if this basic fundamental process is done in a different direction than the direction that we intended, the results are also going to be different. So this is absolutely amazing opportunity, both for the old knowledge seekers to refresh their memories, to go back to basics, and also for the new wave of knowledge seekers that are starting to understand and are starting to engage with the technology to be able to create different applications of the technology. So once again, it's going to be Saturday, the 11th of June, 2022, from 10 o'clock until 6 o'clock in the Linz Exhibition Center. I'm sure that there are going to be a lot of surprises. There will be a lunch break with lunch not included. And the cost for that is 350 euro, which includes all the materials that you're going to need during the workshop. Again, we cannot go far enough if we don't have a strong base. The strong base has been part of we see it in sacred scripts and texts that you cannot build anything strong on a weak foundation. So with this workshop, we want to make sure that we have a strong foundation for the times to come, so that we create the conditions that we want, the conditions that we need for bringing peace on the planet. So I'm very happy to welcome you to this workshop. And don't forget that we have limited amounts of seats. So the sooner you book your seat, the sooner you're going to be sure that you're going to be among the few lucky people that are going to take part in this workshop. If we move further down on this store page, we're going to see that we are going to have a sculpture guns workshop, the 18th of June, 2022. The same conditions from 10 to 6 p.m. With a lunch break, with no lunch included. We eat from the fields, so to speak, again in the Linz Exhibition Center. Costs, because of the materials and program, is yet to be announced. The next workshop that we have is the pottery guns workshop. It is also towards the practical applications of the technology, to be able to create your own pottery, to have the knowledge and the skill to create your own pottery that is using the guns technology, which can then be applied in very different fields. It is going to happen on the 25th of June. 25th of June, again from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. in the exhibition center in Linz. we will basically show you how to mix the ganses into the clay, but also you will learn about working with clay in general, not only clay with ganses, but working with clay in general. And you'll be able to create your very own Gans clay cup on the pottery wheel that is going to be present there. Because of all the materials that are going to be included there, the cost is going to be 450 euro. We are going to go through the theoretical introduction into pottery. Also, we're going to see a practical demonstration of preparing clay with ganses in several steps. A practical demonstration of throwing a cup on the pottery wheel, preparing the clay, working with the wheel. We will have a time to practice. We'll be able to trim the bottom side of the cup and complete the cup with different possible surface textures. Also, we're going to see the glazing process and final finishing of the cup. This workshop is also to show us that there are very different applications. There are so many people and so many applications of the technology. So we need with this to bring the inspiration back to you to understand that the GANS technology, the cache space technology can be applied in very different, very specific aspects of our lives. It does not need to be only space technology or health or agriculture or energy that most of the people are interested in, but it also will be practical applications in our everyday lives, practical applications for well-being, for beauty, for culture, for art. It is going to be part of our lives, so the sooner we get on board, the better. And with the people that are open-minded, open-hearted, and want to learn a new skill, at the same time combine it with the knowledge of GANS technology, this is absolutely perfect combination to combine the space technology and the application in a pottery GANS workshop. So once again, the first workshop that we're going to have is the basic GANS workshops on the 11th of June. Then on the 18th of June is going to be sculpture GANS workshop, and the 25th of June is going to be the pottery GANS workshop. You are very welcome to the Linz Exhibition Center. You're not only going to get in touch with the technology from the workshop's point of view, but also you'll be able to see all the current developments and all developments of the Keshe Foundation, all the products. You'll be able to meet with really nice people and get to know the foundation from the inside. So it's not only about the workshop, it's also about creating this community and getting to know each other and how to move forward with spreading the technology and spreading the knowledge that is aimed to bringing peace on our planet. Thank you very much, Rick, for the help. Thank you, Mr. Keshe, and thank you for all the knowledge seekers.
Thank you very much. The workshops which are taking place in the Keshe Foundation Linz are subject to be moved if need be to another position in Linz or within the, what we call the Linz Center due to other what we call tests and trials which will be carried on in the center. But essentially, there's very, very limited number of people, especially in the pottery and in the sculpture. We're looking at about maximum 10 people to be able to do, and it's very, very limited. These are the what we call the masters in their work. These are not just knowledge seekers. Pottery is a scientist. This is what he does in the university. And this is not just somebody who knows pottery. The same is with the artists and the others. Somebody has sent a question back. Can we purchase anything to do with the tip, hip, and lip? They're already on the store in the Keshe Foundation. They've been since yesterday. And you can go and visit and take part in this trial test on a voluntary basis. Any other question?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kish. I have a hand up here with Jefferson. Go ahead, Jefferson.
Hello, Rick. Hello.
Yes, we hear you. Go ahead.
Oh, hello. Good morning, everyone. This is Jefferson Rodriguez from Brazil. Good morning, Mr. Kish. It's always an honor to talk to you personally with voice, and thank you very much for your teaching and the knowledge sharing from today and always, all the time. And thank you very much for the opening that you give for us or to us every week, so we can interact directly with you in the physicality as well as at soul level that you have been radiating to everyone in our levels and transmit your knowledge and your kindness. Thank you very much for this and for many things. I would like just to bring, I was reading again the book number 2, The Structure of the Light. And I think there is something to do with the teaching of today that earlier on. And I was reading the chapter about unifying the field theory. And in one point, you brought the topic about permanent magnets. And you state there, sometimes in the future, I will release a book for which the initial basic work has already been set. The book will be entitled, The Universal Origin of Magnetic Fields. In this book, I will explain how magnetic fields are generated and how plasmatic and specific matter's magnetic field exists in different dimensions. And this book is available for us one day to have it. Are we mature enough to have this knowledge? Because further on, I explained how the plasmatic magnetic fields in the universe does not need to carry the same mass or the plasmatic mass that we are having here. And the difference of these plasmatic interactions through the magnetic fields in order probably will be the same as the plasma enhanced unit that you're going to have in LINS as well, because as I understood it, we'll have one of those device machine will have no mass for us to see, but it carries the whole field strength, the plasma field strength of the universe. So that's what I would like to say to, and if you have the opportunity to read this book one day, that's going to be another bestseller in my view. Thank you very much for everything, Mr. Cash. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, everyone. It's always a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The book number 8, The Original Magnetic Field, is one of the last to be released because it takes man to the origin of creation. And we talked about the teaching part of this last week. It goes beyond what we call the creator, where that came from. That's what we're talking, the origin of the origin. Not halfway that then it needs to be explained by somebody else, and a lot of rigmarole goes into it. In so many ways, in teaching in the small parts, I have already filled in part of this book, ready to go. This is like the soul teaching. A number of knowledge seekers worked on the soul teachings, extracts from all teachings to be added as part of the totality of soul teaching. And this will be part of what we call the work, which over time, next years, will be released. I don't have at the moment time to write. And not only time, writing books like this is writing the Torah. Writing books like this is like writing the holy books. These are knowledge which is transferred. It is not something that is made up. And as I was explaining before, in respect to the first 3-4 books, most of these books are written in mountains in east of Belgium, in Flanders. This is where I used to go and write every day, consecutive days, till the books were completed. And then sit down and go through it and expand it. It's, as I was saying earlier on, we had going to the mountains, coming up with tablets and with releasing what suits. Going to the mountain, writing what it is, and is written, nothing is hidden. The book number 4, basic number 5 and 6, all have been written, and it's there. Book number 4 is more or less complete, these illustrations, but book number 8, which is the original magnetic field, will be one of the last books written before my departure. Then man has time to study for centuries to come. Any other question?
Thank you, Mr. Cash. Thank you very much. We hope it is.
Okay, we have a question from Miguel in the chat. Mr. Cash, how is it going to be managed, the entry or the border to access a ticket for a spaceship? Is there going to be a background check to take the bad persons away, like presidents, killers, or persons who attack the Foundation, or knowledge seekers? And the knowledge seekers are going to have the opportunity to be first on the ticket sales?
There is no preferences. We even allow the criminal kings and leaders to go in first. Then they'll be sorted by themselves. We have no plan at the moment for ticket sales, and at the moment everything is how it's going to be on the test trials, and then we'll see how things take shape. Any other question?
on the workshop? Will it all be in English, or can someone with a different language background attend as well?
The Gans production, the pottery, the painting, and the sculpture will be both in English and German. We have what we call soft toys, what we call for enhancement units, enhancement systems. This is will be done in Romanian and English. Basically, we are English-based structure. So, but if it's nationally to one language, it can be done. If you are Spanish and you want to hold the teaching in the exhibition center, write to us. It's not excluded and exclusive of German or English speaking. The exhibition center is open and many of you are invited in the summertime. Come and see and add to the knowledge and to understand the progress and progression in technology. Last Monday when I was there was a team of about 10 or 15 people. They book morning and afternoon sessions. And Mario is there to explain and to show the progress in development. We will close the sections of the exhibition center very soon for a period for what we're going to use it for. But essentially, book your time for seeing exhibition, understanding it. You'll go in as one man and you come out as different, even though you think you've seen all of it and you know it all. Any other question? Should we call it a day?
There's one other thing I wanted to bring up, which is on the Universal Flight Enhancement Spaceship Unit. I've entered it into the contest that we
Again?
engaged in before, perhaps against my better judgment, but for fun and for possible exposure and so on. So let me just kind of share that.
Where did we come last year?
Well, we can have a look here, actually. Let me see. We can. We should be able to browse by the votes. Here's the final voting. Here's the final voting scoreboard in last year, 2021. And we placed second in votes. Number 2, the Universal Body Enhancement Spaceship Unit with 386 votes. And you can see it did really well in views, actually. It was the highest in views in the competition. But then when it came to actually placing according to the judges, they didn't judge us very well. We did well in the popular vote, but not in the vote from the judges. So, and that was kind of expected, I guess, because Mr. Kesh even predicted it, and myself as well. But I kind of hoped that the judges would see a little more favor in terms of our project, but maybe this year instead. So this year, instead of the Body Enhancement Spaceship Unit, I've entered the, where is it on the list here? Just a second here, and I'll find it again. I see there's been a bunch of new entries. Let me just get back into my, where I just had it here. There we go. Okay, so this is the entry now for the Universal Flight Enhancement Spaceship Unit for this year. And I've got a description about it. We're allowed a 500-word description. And I put a link to the store to actually purchase it and so on. And I've entered it instead of the medical category, which we had last year, I put it in the aerospace and defense category. So I thought that might be more appropriate. And so that should raise a few eyebrows in the aerospace and defense category. If we go to that category this year, here's some sort of design for an improved rotorcraft, ion jet. Here's something interesting, a magnetic energy outer space propulsion system, supposedly. And there's our Universal Flight Enhancement Spaceship Unit. And these are just in order of how they were uploaded to the site. And in the category, these are all the aerospace and defense category. And there's a number of them. And reusable space vehicle launcher, long-range multi-role fuel cell electric aircraft and fuel system, and so on. Here's an interesting one, a space environmental protection, space shield, and so on. So this is a number of interesting entries. I think there's probably about 30 entries or so at this point. Now there's another month and a half or so till the end of June. Actually, the 1st of July is the end of this competition. So people have an opportunity in the next while to vote for the Universal Flight Enhancement Spaceship Unit. And to vote, you need to sign in on this or log in. Either sign up or log in. If you logged in last year and voted, which a number of people did, then you just have to log in again and you can vote for the Universal Flight Enhancement Spaceship Unit. Or if you didn't vote last year, you would need to sign up. You click on the sign up form, and there's a number of things you have to fill out, your name and address and so on, as they like to track those who enter and make sure it's a legitimate entry. So don't try to cheat by putting in multiple entries from multiple email addresses and so on, because they only allow one person, one entry, or one vote, basically. So for people that have already logged in last year, you simply log in your username and password, and you'll go in automatically, and you can then go to the Universal Flight Enhancement Spaceship Unit or anything else you'd like to vote for. And at the end of the text, I believe it is, there's a place that you can vote. And instead of saying learn how to vote here, you'd be able to vote. I've already voted. I am the one vote that's voted for this because it was just put up a day ago, so we haven't had exposure yet to it. But I'll be promoting that in the next while, and hopefully people will get engaged and excited a little bit about the contest, and maybe we'll place well this year as well. It's even if the judges try to ignore us, the popular vote from the people seems to say we like it. So I think we need to say that again this year for this unit as well. Okay, I think that's
we
about
already
it.
know the results before we get there.
In a way, but
When is the deadline?
The deadline is July 1st, so we have a month and a half or so here.
And it can vote only once.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for today's teaching and your time. And hopefully we should be able to do it again next week. So let's see. It'll be 434. Thank you very much, Rick, and everybody in the background making these teachings possible.
Well, thank you, Mr. Kesh. You've definitely made everything possible in the last couple of decades here of these this technology teaching, and the books and teachings from about a dozen years ago when we started these original workshops and teachings and whatnot. Thank you for being there for this whole time and never missing a workshop in spite of being every holiday in every possible religion of the world.